Hello and good morning. June 18th? What is it? 10th. I live in the future, so the present is really my past. My present is a present. Kiss my ass. That's, I've been thinking a lot about how there's a strain of awareness product, of a consumer awareness being peddled, and it's good and bad. I think that it would lead people generally, people that have the audacity to delve deeper into awareness, but there's so much of this, oh, everything is already within you. That's true, but it's not that's not helpful to people. That's not really going to wake anybody up. Telling people to go back to sleep is not waking them up. And you just clicked on a video that said Monday morning coffee, but I think that you know. I think that you know. I know that you know. But in an effort to combat that, I think I'm going to start watching the news and seeing how I can watch the news with you and watch new developments with you. I'm essentially going to be drinking coffee, sipping coffee. Hey, cheers. We made it. Another week, baby. Here we go. Made it another week. Um, to get to this point where I could have such a relaxed schedule to do this was excruciating. And how long I'll be able to survive off of, with taking the time to relax my schedule and not work first thing in the morning on a Monday morning. Of course, this is a kind of labor, and when I get to all the jobs that I've ever held have not been terrible. Well, most of the jobs that I've had have not been so much physically terrible as much as they've been psychically um, disgusting. But uh, to get to this point is a real. It's something. It's a real something. Uh, do I have a chat window? That's something that I want to ask myself. I can't see chat right now. Can I pop this out? I'll just keep this around. Hopefully I'll notice. I doubt anybody will be oh watching YouTube at this time of the day, but you can go back, you can see it. Who knows how you found this? But this is something that I'm trying to do because if I live stream, I have a window into projecting a public persona, which is something that I hate. I hate doing it. I think I'm probably better at it than most people, but geez, I hate it. I hate cooperating. I hate. I'm probably one of the most agreeable people actually, but I probably am, at least for men. I am probably one of the highest in agreeability, which is not a good thing. And I still hate, but maybe that's absolutely why I hate talking to people. Is because I know that that's me talking to myself, and I'm not going to waste my own time, twice of my own time, by getting into an argument. That's my mentality. So it's quite taxing, and that's one of the worst parts about having a job is because what are you gonna do if yeah, I mean, if you weren't that type of person that's going to agree with whatever supervisor or person in a position of power, you're not going to uh, you're not going to make it anyway. So what's even the point of but not enough. There's not enough coffee and news watching happening. So this is my favorite program, Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. I just watch the headlines. You can't spend hours every day. 12 minutes is almost too much to be watching the news, but I kind of make an effort to do it on the weekdays. Maybe not every day, but at least on a Monday morning. While I have the time. This Monday, while I have the time, why not watch the news and drink coffee. So let's go and do this together.
This news is
I'm a
funded
spectator
by
here
viewers
more
like
than
you.
anything.
Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Officials in Gaza say Israeli forces killed 274 Palestinians, including at least 64 children, in the Nuseirat refugee camp during an Israeli military daytime raid on Saturday to free 4 Israelis who'd been held hostage in Gaza since October 7th. The hostages had been held in 2 apartments in Nuseirat, one of the largest refugee camps in Gaza. For 2 hours, Israeli forces attacked the area by air, land, and sea. 1 Israeli soldier died in the raid. Hamas is claiming 3 other
What was that pause?
hostages were also killed. Over 700 Palestinians were injured
I know it's just
inside
real
the
life and it
refugee
happens.
camp. A survivor described the massacre.
We were in Nuseirat camp.
This guy's got the
Special
fade
forces
going.
arrived from
I'm
an
sorry.
Apache helicopter.
Okay, this is my problem, is that if I'm live streaming, I'm in an entertainment mindset and I want to be talking shit. But this is serious. But okay, well, look at this guy though. Look at this. This is the Aryan of. See, this is when I'm trying to crack wise here, but look, man, this is fucking terrible. This and this has been a year. Imagine a year of the worst news ever. It's like a country that your government funds has been killing civilians for a full year, and that's just like the biggest news every day. Maybe not. Maybe if you watch Democracy Now, but it's legitimate. It's really happening. And so, how do you not become numb? I've heard rumors. Have they invaded Lebanon? I feel like that's what I'm gonna have to find out here. I can't even remember when I saw that. It probably would have been reported on Friday. I'm pretty sure they did.
And there was a white car with special forces.
It's fucking insane. But humans are like the cognitive dissonance animal. It's like we've evolved to suppress tragedy in our emotionally. If it didn't directly happen to us, and even if it did directly happen to us, it's only a matter of time before. I mean, I guess it depends on the person too. But this is an interesting crowd, though. I keep observing things, but because what else could I add? This is just the straight stories. It's fucking insane. I was about to say this guy he has the fucking Zoomer fade though. This is
The Apache started to bomb and fire directly at people. There was a large number of martyrs and injured people. People fled. There's a big number of displaced people. Schools and hospitals are filled with displaced people.
Okay, you may think you don't need the news, but subjecting yourself to the tragedy and not becoming completely numb, not becoming completely cynical, and not becoming completely depressed, I think is a feat, a meditation, a mediation, even, of maturity. Because to stick your head in the sand is also sort of it's a cope. It's a clear pathology. And I try to wonder what my own but I'm just a guy watching the news. What pathology is there to that? I mean, I think we're embedded in our own psychic complexes. And I don't know how we couldn't be. How we could just be this pure awareness that gets, as I was saying earlier, how this pure awareness idea is peddled to us. And I think of something that Ram Dass says, where he's avoiding all, he discovered awareness. He discovered a sort of meditative high. Eastern philosophy gave him a high, this sort of non-dualistic high, and he realized that he started avoiding pain and suffering. He started avoiding the trials of the people around him and people that were, you know, down on their luck, downtrodden, or even just depressive in general, because it was killing his high of psychic, not necessarily superiority, but a psychic, just a psychic high, just an oversimplification of non-dualism. So I'm trying to look into the abyss. When this isn't really, this is actually the opposite of the abyss, maybe, if you think about it. But then, you know, this is maybe the most honest news outlet that I can think about, and I'm always second guessing myself. Is this legit? Is this like, are they showing me pictures of people in a you know, in an LA film venue? Is it all fabricated? Like, but it almost doesn't matter, because you have to treat everything like it's real. That might sound insane. You're just opening yourself up to psyops. The point is to be better than, even if the psyop is 100% real, because it will be eventually. What would you do?
There's a large number of martyrs, and firing was direct. We brought 10 injured people in one ambulance. One of them was shot directly. We barely made it out through the alleyways.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has called for an emergency UN Security Council session to discuss what he called a bloody massacre, as the overall Palestinian death toll in Gaza has topped 37,000. The United States reportedly provided intelligence to Israel to aid the hostage rescue effort, including drone imagery collected over Gaza. For months, the U.S. has been flying MQ-9 Reaper drones over Gaza. Israel evacuated the hostages from a beach near where the U.S. built a temporary pier to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza. The U.S. has denied the pier was used during the Israeli military operation. Israel's also denying claims it used a humanitarian aid truck to infiltrate the refugee camp. The Israeli military said the 4 hostages, Noah Argamani, Ahmad Meir Jan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv, were all in good medical condition. This all comes as Israel is facing increasing pressure to agree to a ceasefire and hostage deal. On Saturday night, hours after the hostages were freed, thousands of Israeli protesters took to the streets. In Tel Aviv, police fired water cannons and made at least 33 arrests. On Sunday, Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz resigned from Benjamin Netanyahu's government and called for new elections.
Regrettably, Netanyahu is preventing us from advancing toward true victory, which is the justification for the ongoing and painful cost of war. That is why we are leaving the emergency government today with a heavy heart, but with full confidence.
Shortly after Benny Gantz resigned, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir demanded a spot in the War Cabinet. This comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's back in the Middle East for meetings in Egypt, Israel, Jordan, and Qatar to push for the ceasefire and hostage deal outlined by President Biden. The United Nations has added Israel to its so-called list of shame, a blacklist of nations and groups that violate the rights of children in armed conflicts. Other nations on the UN list include Russia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Syria, Burma, Afghanistan, and
Israel has been added to the list of shame.
The rights of children in armed conflict. Nations has added Israel to its so-called list of shame.
I'm glad we have a list of shame. Wow.
Violate the rights of children in armed conflicts.
Well, but it's just a symbolic.
Include Russia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Syria, Burma, Afghanistan, and Haiti. The UN's also adding the Palestinian groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad to the list of shame.
What's the limit to what can be added to the list of shame? What's the limit? Could an individual, could they be like, yeah, Bernie Mac with his protruding nipples in front of Congress is added to the list of shame? I don't know.
protesters formed a symbolic red line around the White House Saturday to protest the Biden administration's Gaza policy. A major pro-Palestinian rally was also held in London Saturday. Meanwhile, in Canada, police fired tear gas and pepper spray Friday to disperse protesters at McGill University in Montreal, where students had taken over administrative building. 15 arrests were made. In Spain, hundreds of protesters lay down on the ground outside the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao to symbolize the mass casualties in Gaza. In France, President Emmanuel Macron Sunday called a snap election for June 30th following major losses in European Union elections to the far-right National Rally Party.
Après avoir procédé aux consultations prévues.
After having proceeded with the consultations as provided in Article 12 of our Constitution, I decided to give back to you the choice for the future of our Parliament with a vote, and so I am dissolving tonight our National Assembly.
L'Assemblée nationale.
Marine Le Pen's far-right RN party won over 30% of the vote in preliminary tallies, more than twice as many votes as Macron. The RN announced 28-year-old Jordan Bardella as its candidate for prime minister. The far-right made gains elsewhere, including in Italy, Austria, and Germany, where the extreme-right Alternative for Germany gained 6 seats and placed second behind Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats. Despite the boost for hard-right groups, centrist parties will still hold an outright majority in the 720-seat European Parliament. Nationalist, anti-immigrant groups are expected to control 130 seats. On Saturday, an estimated 15,000 protesters took to the streets of Berlin to call out the rising power of the far right in Germany. Meanwhile, in Brussels, a group of scientists and climate activists on Friday blocked the entrance to the EU Commission.
We blocked the entrance to the European Commission.
I love this.
We are trying to push for degrowth. No political party really has degrowth on its agenda. And degrowth is a necessity if we want to survive this century.
I don't know if I believe it. Well,
ecological, civilizational collapse. And
I don't know about that.
We really need to talk about it.
Doctors Without Borders recovered the bodies of 12 asylum seekers.
In a
off the
way,
coast of Libya
yeah,
in the
definitely. I mean, like,
Mediterranean Sea
it's not human. Well, yeah, Amazon. That's kind of intertwined with the public so deeply that there would have to be a sort of degrowth on that situation. But I don't know. Even people getting all of their fucking bullshit online shopping orders ran to them. Do you not think that we're within, even if not this year or a year from the date or 2 years even, you don't think that we're close enough to some sort of like a sustainable solution to everybody's consumer bullshit? It's just that the production of those goods is probably worse than even transporting them. Maybe I don't know anything. The transportation probably is terrible, especially with people ordering off of this shit like Alibaba and Temu. The Chinese Amazon alternatives, that shit's getting shipped from overseas. But Amazon probably all of the buyers are just wholesaling. They're just middlemen anyway, shipping shit from overseas to the United States. It's getting first class flown. I don't really know. Maybe they have warehouses. I really don't. As much as I've looked into all of the business models of these Amazon and Amazon-like companies, it's kind of, I couldn't tell you off of the top of my head, but it's really interesting. But what do people mean by degrowth? What do people mean by, like, I think definitely Americans with their cars is a problem, but that's like, good luck solving that. Nobody could, public transportation is just completely a mess. Couldn't do it in the United States. They've designed it to be impossible. And though, as long as we're building infrastructure, it's going to be car centric unless a town has completely elected to build a sort of younger city in the direction of something walkable, sustainable. But good luck in most exploding cities, in most cities in the United States that are growing. That it's completely pessimistic, I know, but But is degrowth okay? This is the funny thing about degrowth is that I don't like the Malthusian antinatalist. I don't like the spiritual approach to it, but there's a sustainability, like a bare bones mathematic approach to arguing uh, degrowth. And I don't know if degrowth should be viewed. It should just be. I think that here's a branding thing. It shouldn't be called degrowth. It should be called optimization. People think about how unnecessarily people live. It shouldn't be called degrowth. It should be called optimization for one thing. I think that degrowth scares people. It makes people think that they're losing something, when really it's just you're giving up fat. Would you call an obese person losing 60 pounds degrowth, or would you call that getting in shape? That's my take, but fuck, far be it from me to tell a Swedish person what they're doing. All I'm saying is it looks more like optimization. It looks more like living, communities living within their means, taking care of each other, doing work that isn't work, that isn't the colonized way of thinking about labor, as far as like wage labor. It's about just sustaining oneself with. And this is a drum that I was beating in 2022, and when I was in with the Krishnas a little bit more deeply, it was food autonomy, food independence. And that's still the ground zero of any kind of liberation, is food autonomy, in my opinion. You feed people, you control people. We can't let industrialized food production be feeding people. And this is why I can't listen to anybody talk about any kind of revolution anymore without talking about a food revolution first. Is that it's that is the central block. In fact, a lot of revolutions couldn't start without starvation to begin with. I'm not somebody who says that they can't, which might surprise you. Some people say that revolutions cannot start without starvation. I think that obviously they can. We've seen American history. American history is the great proof to these Europeans saying that. I guess taxation. Taxation can also cause revolution. No, a pissed off petite bourgeois can start a revolution. It's not starvation. It's it's white guys in suits that just have had a little. They can't take it anymore. That's what starts. That's what starts the revolution. Sorry, not sorry.
Transported.
Wait, but what was I? I was saying something important. No, the news is not important. What I'm saying is important. It shouldn't be called degrowth. Degrowth is, but the spiritual aspect of degrowth, which is Malthusian, antinatalist in nature. I feel like there's a lot of punks who just want to be in a doomsday cult. This is what I'm seeing more and more of with the climate philosophy, is people just want to tap out of a sort of human condition, a sort of survival instinct. It's kind of depressive. To me, it's absolutely depressive. It's absolutely, might as well lay in bed all day, and so people do that, but that's not the answer. There is no answer, but I don't think that. Think about the opportunity cost of laying in bed all day, and how if there is no answer, there is limitless answers, and you have confined yourself to the answer that is stagnation, which is valid. As valid as anything can be. But think about that for a second. Think about what you're doing there. You could have anything, and that you let that be your anything. Maybe you're so hardcore. You want to die. Maybe you're so cool you want to die. That just ain't me. That's not me. As much as I wish that I could want to die, I just can never want that. And I'm trying to work through that. a lot, the science fiction that I've been reading, the philosophy I've been reading, the shit that I've been researching has all kind of had to do with um, how bleak the world is, and I resonate with those feelings, but also this strange not wanting to die, and I don't think it's just animal instinct, because if it were just animal instinct, I think I would have overcome it a long time ago, and that might be me cranking my own chain a little too rough, a little too rapidly, but rough and rapidly, but I just don't think I just don't see it. I think that I've never been suicidal. That might just sound really nice, but there's always been some sort of spiritual ethic. I think it's because I was around. This is the one caveat of being around incredibly spiritual people, and they didn't have direction. It was all just gut instinct. You know, these in a funny way. When you see a person raised in modern Christianity become a pagan, it just makes it's like nothing even changes. They just become a little bit cooler, I guess, or a little bit gayer or something, you know, depending on which kind of pagan. But nothing really changed because for the better, the church, the Protestant church at least, I don't know how Catholics really operate. So when Catholics become pagan, I really don't know. It really is like a rebellion. But when Protestants become pagan, it's really like nothing changes because it's, you know, growing up in a at least certain Protestant sects, it's already like a free for all for anybody to say their piece. You know, it's kind of, you know, and the sky's the and you see this in Protestant churches. There's toleration, you know, open tolerance of gay people, open tolerance of women being in roles of power, which are, you know, they're rules in the Bible that would call that into question. But there's also rules in the Bible that would call into question eating pork and shrimp. So, and then people have arguments to allow them to do that, surely. But people haven't tried as hard to have arguments for the other way. You know, you think if we're talking about the Abrahamic laws, the laws that were given to Abraham when he was forming the first nation of Israel, it was it said men should not lay with another man as a woman. So really only trans femmes are in the wrong, according to the Bible. That's a joke. Of course, God loves trans women more than anyone else. Surely, if I were God, which I am, I would love trans femmes more than anyone else. But it's not. It's a semantic game that everyone's playing, and it's really born out of culture, you know. And the only reason that God told Abraham and the Jewish council or whatever in what is it, fucking Leviticus, don't make it, you know the thing. The Bible is gigantic. At some point, there's a tent. Abraham and a council of Jewish elders are given instructions from God. It says essentially essentially this is it. Whatever the Canaanites did, whatever the Canaanites are doing presently, don't fuck with it. Don't do it. You're not allowed. Which is being gay, respecting women, eating shrimp and pork, and don't sacrifice your children to Baal. And so I think we should keep that one. Let's not sacrifice children to Baal. But the rest had nothing to do, you know. This was all just shit that the Canaanites were doing. And Canaanites were the original gypsies. I don't know. The original group, I mean, obviously, Jewish people were the original oppressed class, I guess, if you think about it in terms of, like, all of history, you know, Babylonian, Egyptian, they were just slaves. But they're not the pagan horde. I guess in that case the Canaanites kind of resemble more Mongol. Don't get me talking. Now I'm just straight yapping. Now I'm just saying shit that isn't even that's too far out there. That's out of my realm of expertise. But maybe even talking about this, essentially, it's funny to see. It's funny to see that pagans and Protestants are very similar. And so that spiritual thing, because I was raised around a lot of Protestants and then came to meet a lot of pagans, in the world after I left my sort of Protestant bubble, Church of Christ. There were a lot. I was around Methodists. I mean, I didn't really. I thought all of them were foolish. Well, I thought they were all senseless, and I thought they were all very wise. And I've embodied those qualities in myself. And then I met a lot of senseless and wise pagans and atheists and Buddhists and Hindus, who have all told me many good things. But the chain that links all of them is the sort of anti-suicidal spirit. And maybe it's all bullshit. Maybe it's complete delusion. But obviously it's not. Obviously it's not if you've practiced. If you've done your homework, it's not bullshit. There's something to it. It is incomprehensible, though. It is beyond words. It is something that Kant couldn't even articulate. I think I'm in the middle of reading Critique of Pure Reason, and we'll see how that goes. It's tough. I'm not even in the middle. It's more like I'm in the shallow end of it. It's 600 pages. At least my copy is, but it's something that philosophy couldn't even put word to. And I'm trying to get to Hegel, and I've had lecturers tell me that Hegel ended the philosophical question about transcendentalism. He ended the transcendental discussion. And I don't really know. I can't, whenever they talk about that, I'm like, how? I gotta just see it. I have to read it to believe it, to see it, to read it, to see it, to read it, to hear it, to. But that's the. I can maybe it's linked to Hegel because it's the world soul, and I still have to read. I still have to do a lot of reading to fully comprehend. But that's even in Greek. Axis Mundi, It's there is a world soul. We are nature that is rendered conscious. I know that you don't want to hear a long-haired person on a Monday morning who's not in front of an Excel spreadsheet say that to you, but it's true. It's really true. And there's a world spirit that is keeping nature's best minds alive. And maybe it's like so excruciating. Maybe it's I think that all suicide is also spiritual, because it's never just the anti-natalists. You read it on Reddit. You see, there's anti-natalist forums that are telling people to commit suicide, and they're sort of evil. No, I mean, because evil isn't real, but it's more like they are like dark magicians. They are like but if evil was a thing, surely they would be evil. But they're more so warped sorcerers, spelling people into suicide. And really, those people probably just get their kicks that way. But it is an expression from within the guides, the suicidal spirit guides on these anti-natalist forums. And you just look up like anti-natalist forum, assisted suicide anti-natalist forums. Look that up on YouTube, and there should be like an hour-long video essay. I watched it over a year ago at this point, but it's really insane because I mean, and then I when I first discovered anti-natalism back in like 2020, which is pretty late to the game, to be honest. It was this huge. It was like I was so high on life in that, which is crazy to say. It was like 2021. It was like COVID had just happened, so of course it was like the right time for anti-natalism. And then, but I was riding this high of the world soul. I was kind of seeing what the world can do when you are at the right place in the right time, sure, but are also riding that wave of the world soul. And so I was riding the wave of the world soul, and I was like, and I was of course, it was the best of times and the worst of times. I had very little in my power, but I was just at the right place at the right time to experience uh, an upswelling of what the potential of nature looks like. And so I was riding that high, right? But as Ram Dass says, you can't avoid the lows. And so I had to reckon with antinatalism came crashing into my life through some. It was really, I hadn't listened to the MGMT album, and I fucking hate MGMT as much as I love a lot of their songs. They're so good. They're so good. But I hate what they stand for. A lot of the time, half of the time. Sometimes it's kind of interesting. Sometimes it's really it's like a banger, like Electric Feel. Like, turn your fucking brain off and just listen to Electric Feel. Stop making MGMT. Stop making antinatalist sob story bullshit songs. Oh, I'm getting old. Oh, life is... Shut the fuck up. I just want to hear Electric Feel. Just make more music like that, you fucking pussies. You're not cut out for the existential process. You're not cut out for it. That's my hot take. But here we go. Here we go. What's the song on the Clown album? The one that has the big MGMT song. The one that's it's not Little Dark Age, right? It's not it's another one. It's When You Die. That came on some Spotify rotation, and it led me into this deep dive of antinatalism. And I don't even remember how. I think that I looked up that song, and I was just trying to, and I was trying. It led me. It literally just listening to that song led me into trying to understand the mindset. And obviously, I understood the mindset because it was so striking to me. But it had like completely knocked me off of my horse. If the world soul was a horse, it knocked me off that horse, and I was completely not quite shipwrecked, but I was like, in my mind I was like, I have to say yes at least partially to everything. And I've gotten a lot better at that now, but at the time this was like the immovable object that I was running into, where I thought that I had the unstoppable force of the world soul on my side, and this felt like that moment. So that's a very dialectical moment, from someone who does not fully understand what dialectic means. But it surely is, because they are the negation of one another. And so, in a sense, it's they have to exist. They have to be reckoned with. They have to be mediated. They have to be understood. And the creation from the negation, has to be respected. And a lot of my life since then has been grappling with that and the numerous offspring of that negation's negation, and that negation's negation, and that negation's, and that, and you keep going. And that's been how I've functioned. But that current of antinatalism was so interesting to me, and that's a spiritual force too. So when these people, all this to say, back to the news, what I'm saying is the real news, but the degrowth movement needs to root itself in the optimization of the human mode of production, the human condition of sustainability. They should be calling themselves the human optimization, agriculture optimization, collective optimization, instead of degrowth. Degrowth is spiritually coded with antinatalist Malthusian sympathies. It is, and you see this. The climate movement is rich with gothic, emotional people with eyeliner, and they're crying. The eyeliner is smearing, and they're like, "The world is over." I walked into a bar one time, and I saw a guy in skinny jeans on a keyboard with a bad haircut, and he was just like, "The world is ending. The world," It's and that it was music. I'm telling you this story because that somebody was making music and not trying to write, a a legal document. You know, if you want to solve this, if you want a solution, you have to write a plan. You have to create a like at least a blueprint to argue for an alternative to. But the doomerism is the spiritual plight. I think the world will just lapse into some sort of desert and Mad Max hellscape. That sucks, but it's not the end. The Malthusians want the end. It's or maybe not. I don't, but at least maybe they think the end would be superior to the suffering that would come out of that. But you get to a point where you realize you don't need any of the luxury that you're swimming in. And right now we're swimming in luxury and we're suffering anyway. So if we're suffering in the desert versus suffering in a air-conditioned apartment building, maybe we deserve it either way. Maybe we're just never gonna stop suffering. And that sounds very first world. I just looked at images of children that got their arms blown apart. Maybe I should be there trying to fix that situation instead of. Well, I gotta be doing this live stream that nobody's watching right now. That's more important. I promise you it's more important. I promise you it's more important. I mean, I have to do. Obviously, this is just an hour or two out of my Monday morning. There's a lot more work to be done, and if I don't do that work, I am so fucked. I am so fucked if I don't do that. If I don't fix all of the shit in my own life, it's just gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. But here, listen to this. There's nothing that a cup of coffee in the morning and watching the news can't do to ground you. I'm sorry that I think that in the future I'm going to have to just let this play because tangents are going to fly out. I mean, maybe that's the point of watching a live stream version of somebody drinking coffee and watching the news. I'm not going to get trapped in an existential bubble. I've talked about that enough.
165 survivors of a shipwreck to Italy Friday. Rescue workers warn the victory of the far right in EU elections will lead to more migrant deaths. Following the rescue mission, MSF blasted the, quote, devastating and bloody European policies on migration and non-assistance for people taking the Mediterranean, unquote. This is the head of the Red Cross in Spain's Canary Islands describing the treacherous journey undertaken by thousands each month.
It's a journey that, depending on where it starts, means up to 10 days at sea, where anything can happen, such as the ship sinking, tough weather conditions, storms. It's a route that has already taken on many lives, some of which we know about, and many others we don't, because they have disappeared.
In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, fighters with the Allied Democratic Forces, a group associated with the Islamic State, killed at least 41 people in an overnight attack Friday in a school in a village near the border with Uganda. The majority of victims were students. The ADF is also accused of another attack in eastern Congo earlier last week that killed at least 16 people. In Sudan, the last hospital in El Fasher, North Darfur, has shut down after the paramilitary RSF, Rapid Support Forces, raided and looted it Saturday, opening fire inside the hospital. It's not clear if anyone was killed or wounded in the attack. This comes as the World Food Program warns Sudan is on track to become the world's largest humanitarian crisis as aid groups struggle to get food to those in need. On Friday, over 40 people were reported killed in RSF attacks on Omdurman, known as the twin city to the capital Khartoum. This came just 2 days after RSF fighters killed over 100 people, including dozens of children, in a village in Al Jazeera state. The UN is warning the ongoing fighting in Sudan is creating a massive displacement crisis in the region.
Some 12 million have been forced to flee their homes in Sudan, with over 2 million crossing borders into neighboring countries, mainly Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt, often arriving in extremely vulnerable conditions and highly traumatized.
In Uganda, the environmental activist Stephen Kwikuriza is receiving hospital care after being released from a nearly week-long detention Sunday where he was reportedly beaten by members of the army. He's believed to have been targeted due to his protests against the French oil company Total Energies, which is involved in the East African crude oil pipeline project known as ECOP. Local activists have been trying to stop development of the 900-mile pipeline, which is set to transport oil from Uganda to Tanzania's Indian Ocean port of Tanga. Narendra Modi has been sworn in as India's prime minister for a third term. Modi's Hindu nationalist BJP lost its parliamentary majority in the recent election, forcing it to form a new coalition government. Modi becomes the first Indian leader since Jawaharlal Nehru to win 3 straight terms as prime minister. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has finally acknowledged taking more free vacations paid for by billionaire conservative mega-donor Harlan Crow. In a filing Friday, Thomas disclosed he accepted a pair of trips in 2019, one to Indonesia and another to the Bohemian Grove in California. Last year, ProPublica revealed Thomas had failed to disclose at least 38 luxury trips gifted by Crow and 3 other right-wing billionaires dating back decades. Environmental groups are criticizing the Biden administration for weakening a plan to make gas-powered SUVs and pickup trucks more fuel efficient. Last year, the National Highway Transportation Safety proposed hiking the average fuel economy standards for the vehicles to 58 miles per gallon by 2032. But under rules issued Friday, the figure has been cut to 50 miles per gallon, just a small increase from the current standard. Dan Becker of the Center for Biological Diversity said the new rule will leave automakers free to, quote, make cars, SUVs, and pickups that will guzzle and pollute for decades and keep America stuck on oil, he said. And a parole hearing is being held today for the imprisoned Native American activist Leonard Peltier, who's been jailed since 1977. Amnesty International's urged the U.S. Parole Commission to grant the 79-year-old parole on humanitarian grounds. Peltier, who is a member of the American Indian Movement, was convicted of involvement in the killing of 2 FBI agents, the Pine Ridge Reservation, but he has long maintained his innocence. Supporters of Peltier fear today's hearing could be his last chance.
This guy's
to
cool looking.
support his
Those
freedom.
photos, I love
This is
seeing.
his first full parole hearing in 15
I love seeing
years.
old photographs like that.
Hear our interviews with Leonard Peltier,
How long has he been in?
as well as those
That's kind of crazy.
his
How long has he been in jail?
77. Amnesty International's year, who's and a parole hearing is
1977.
the imprisoned Native American activist Leonard Peltier, who's been jailed
Yeah, bro,
since
free Leonard.
1977.
He says he didn't do it. He didn't
urged
do
the
it.
U.S. Parole Commission to grant the 79-year-old
And if he did
parole
do it,
on humanitarian grounds. Peltier, who
even
was a
if he
member
did
of the
do it,
American Indian Movement, was convicted of
free him
involvement
anyway.
in the killing of 2 FBI agents,
2
the
feds,
Pine Ridge
2 dead
Reservation,
feds.
but he has long maintained his last chance to support
Even if he
his
did
freedom.
do it.
This
But
is
he
his
didn't do it.
first full parole hearing
Free Leonard.
in 15 years. To hear our interviews with Leonard Peltier, as
They got
well as
interviews. I
those
kinda wanna
about
hear
his
that.
case over the years,
Nah.
go to Democracy Now!
Not on live stream. That's a little too intensive for a live stream. So that's the news. I watch this program, not every day, but most days. Obviously, they don't upload on weekends, but every weekday, if I have time, I usually give it a listen, give it a watch. I also have. I'm gonna wrap up here in a minute. Try to keep these under an hour, but I have an 11-minute. Perfectly, put me a little over an hour if I watch this. Let's just kind of skip through this. This is a guy, David Shapiro. I found him because he was talking about the logistics of universal basic income in a really interesting way. I was, surprisingly articulate guy. I mean, not surprising that, because it was my first exposure to him, watching this video. Not this video, but a UBI video. But he's a sort of futurist, a kind of AI sympathizer. I don't, it seems like the news with AI. I think that they blew, they showed their hand. I think that they were hoping for more progress in this second quarter of the year, but it felt like first part of 2024. All the AI news is running hard. Even at the end of 23, it was like AI. Yeah, and I know people remember at the beginning of 23 or the end of 22, it was when all of this was exploding. All the tools were coming out, but then they started getting really refined in 23. It started looking like, oh shit, something big is about to happen. Is something big about to happen? Oh, all of this politics, all the Silicon Valley politics is going down, but it's I think it was all a sell. I think it was all a psyop to sell people Google courses, Google certifications, to become AI certified, and then you tell the guy, I am fit to work at Walmart because I am certified in AI logistics, and they say, welcome aboard, you are the perfect. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. I'm not trying to be too. I mean, we've had enough of that. Just watching it all unfold will subject you to enough of a emotional storm. But essentially, David Shapiro is one of these guys who is beating the drum of AI. I'm sure that he still believes. I don't know if it will happen as fast as he predicts, though. I do not know. But let's see what he's saying. He's saying something that he started talking about longevity, escape velocity, and now that is an interesting topic, which is, are we close to the life extension technology? I mean, obviously, people in power surely already have the life extension technology, right? But when do we as consumers get access to the longevity, escape, velocity? You know, if in 10 years I'll be in my 30s, and perhaps I'll be able to take a pill to de-age me at that point, or I'll at least be able to freeze my age in place long enough to get to the pills however many years, even if it's a century down the line. It doesn't matter because I have essentially bought myself an eternity in my 30s. And maybe I will be, paying. I don't necessarily know if the price is probably going to be too steep for me to afford. Sad to say, unless some big things happen. But there's already a big thing happening, and it's called life. And whether or not you live 1,000 years or 200 years, it really doesn't matter, because you're already always living. We're already all living, and as long as there's someone alive, I'm alive, and you're alive. Sup, everybody?
Yeah. Back in my natural habitat.
This guy's in his natural
before I get
habitat.
started, I really need to.
This is a great. I should have been doing this video like this, watching the news while walking through the forest. I don't know if I have the bandwidth for that. I'd have to re-upload it probably. I'd have to capture it on my phone while I'm walking in the corner. No, it's not tenable. I have to do a video in this kind of format though. What a smart guy.
Critical
What a smart guy.
disclaimer. This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. This is not medical advice. I'm literally just going to tell you how I live, the reasoning behind what I do, and so on and so forth. So the central thesis here is act as if you're going to live forever. Now, some of you pointed out in the comments that
even if we didn't have any of the technological news coming out, I think that's good advice.
statistically speaking, even if you have biological immortality, chances are, like most people, like you have a life expectancy of about 500 years before you're likely to get killed by an accident or something. So just for the sake of this thought experiment, imagine that you have 500 years, that you're going to be essentially in a 22-year-old body for the next 500 years. How are you going to live? What are you going to do? What are you going to prioritize? So this is why people like...
What a great pitch to sell literally anything. I thought about taking this rhetoric and trying to sell a collection of vitamins. Imagine selling supplements. What would you do if you could live as a 22-year-old for the next 500 years and then you try to sell supplements? I just gave away a great idea. None of you will have the audacity to put it into practice. And if you do, it probably won't work out. I'm sorry to tell you. That's why I didn't do it. But it's a great thought. $1 million idea that will not work.
Like me and Brian Johnson say
$1 million, $0 idea.
like, just don't die. Like literally your strategy for the next 5, 10, 20 years, just stay alive, just stay healthy, because at the end of that, between AGI and ASI and everything else, quantum computing, we will probably solve 99% of disease and aging. So it's like, okay, then what? Then you've got plenty of time to do whatever else you've got. And
this guy's
so
riding the
that's
high
kind of
so
the
hard right now.
premise. That's the starting assumptions that I'm making here. So then it's like, okay, well, if you're going to live that long, You don't need to save for retirement, because why, like, what are all the horror stories that us, well, some of you older people in the audience, Gen X, us millennials and Gen Z, it's all like, well, you got to save for retirement, because what if you get cancer? Then you're going to need $1.5 million for cancer treatments. Otherwise, you just die. You need to afford good health insurance. Otherwise, you're just, you're going to croak. And who cares then?
I do love his mentality because he has this mentality that all the problems will. The thing is, if you watch Zeitgeist, well, let me talk about this guy a little bit first before I get into Zeitgeist. He brings the mentality. This guy, David Shapiro. David Shapiro brings this mentality that is super. We could call it utopian, but I don't think it's utopian because it could exist. And utopia means a non-place. A as in non place. And oh, what's up? Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't see your chat. What up? I'm just gonna break bad if that happens. Oh shit! What were you talking about? I missed. Yeah. If what happens? If you can live for 500 years, you're gonna be selling meth. That's what you want to do with 500 years of life. That's beautiful, brother. I'm happy for you. I'm so happy for you. Amicus Handy with the. I would hope you would want to be Colin Saul. I would hope you would want to become like the best lawyer. What if you could just understand, if you had 500 years to understand the legal system, you're like a sage, you're like a wizard of law, you're a law wizard, and you can just like instantly, like you're writing laws as soon as you open your mouth. Oh, if you get cancer. Okay. Yeah, I should have put that together. Silly me. I have a one-track mind. I can't see details. Unfortunately, I'm damned by my macro thinking. But yeah, no. If you got cancer, imagine how you would live. That would kind of be the sad part of losing cancer, would it not? It would be, or like losing life-threatening illness, is that you might just game forever. No, but I think at some point you would realize that. Oh my God, talking about Death Drive. I made a whole video talking about Fallout and the Death Drive, but that is really. I'll surely make something in the future touching on Death Drive, because that's been one of my, even when I didn't fully comprehend what the Death Drive was, and I still I want to be reading a little bit more Lacan, more Freud, a more thorough reading of Freud and understanding exactly. But I think watch me talk about it in the Fallout video and see if I do it justice. But the Death Drive has been captivating me, because when I even barely understood what it was, I just felt like I understood completely already, and I pretty much did. It was you want to take risks. You want to live. You want to live. The One Piece is real. Can we get much higher? I'm trying to die. You may not be able to escape death, but you can escape death and life. Until you experience life and death. That punctuation cut the last line. That was a good little poem until that last line. I disregard it. I'll look back on it later and see if I feel the same way. But this guy's utopian aspect, getting back to what I was saying, the utopian aspect of what this guy is saying is really interesting, because it's not utopian. It could be possible. But he's imagining all of these ways that, what is it? A full AI, the AGI, the AI swarms, the essentially like self-replicating, self-expanding AI will just answer all of the problems of humanity. You've kind of missed that we as humans have already answered all of the problems of humanity. We have the best minds of the world that could create like a council of philosophers. We could instate a perfect society of philosopher kings that articulate all of the problems and manage the world's resources to a T. And we could feed every person on the planet, and we could house every person on the planet, and from there it would just be a matter of communally sharing luxuries like access to the internet, trying to, we could give everybody a 21st century style of living, and we've been able to do that since probably the 90s. If you watch the movie Zeitgeist, it does a good job of, it was Zeitgeist, which came out in like 2000, 2001. It's a great documentary. It kind of goes into a little bit of what some might see as a woo-woo kind of angle. It talks about the Georgia Guidestones, but it's very good. It's a very good documentary. We could have a sustainable world for more than the population of the planet, because we could produce enough food, and we could create enough space and produce enough food to feed everybody over at like one point, almost twice as much. So if you think about twice the population, that's more than the people that we're going to have, because after, apparently, I've heard the rumor that after 10 billion people, it's not going to be there. We will see sort of a tapering off of the exponential growth of the human population. So at the max capacity of human life, it's going to be hard to push past, into the upper 10,000s of 10, not 10,000. What am I saying? I mean 10 billion. Yeah, 10 billion human lives currently on the planet. That'll happen in our lifetime, in my lifetime at least. It's going to be hard to press into the upper echelons of that. Like getting to 20,000 people is not really. It's just not, even if everything is perfect, even if there's some sort of solution that we haven't seen to all of the ails of society. It's probably not going to happen, just mathematically, with the deaths, with the amount of people, with the amount of elderly people that will continually be passing. It's not mathematically viable, because think about how many of the elderly population are boosting the number of people that are alive today because of medicine. I guess if what this guy is saying, where people will live forever, then maybe we'll have a problem on our hands where we'll have to start regulating that shit. But if we have all the answers, who's to say we don't just colonize Mars and overpopulate that and spread like a cancer within a few centuries? I don't know. Who knows? But and by like spread like a cancer, I mean throughout the solar system and beyond. Who knows? Then it would pose a real issue. So what this guy is saying is actually worse than just managing the resources we have now. If we could optimize our resources, it would we wouldn't have any need. But when people start living forever, that's when a problem happens. But maybe people won't care. If you can live forever, then everyone is their own father, son, mother, daughter. Everyone is siblings. Maybe the drive, when you know that you can be a teenager forever, maybe the drive to have children kind of changes, because then we are all each other's child. That might be the cultural direction, but that might scare, that I know that's going to take the piss out of a lot of people, because definitely as I feel my body dying, the desire to continue the human race definitely resonates in me like a demon. And I hope you know what I'm talking about. It's more than just being horny. It's like a spiritual fixation. But yeah, it's and neither are utopian, because the math is there. Do the math. It's not utopia. A sustainable world, a world where everyone is fed and housed, is not utopian. It's actually a very real possibility if you just do the math, and then you ask yourself why we don't do that. And it's very obvious why we don't do that.
And then, of course, there's, climate change, climate crisis. And I know some of you out there are super skeptical of it. And here's where I'll agree. Yes, climate change is real, climate crisis is real. It's probably not going to impact most of us on an individual basis too terribly much, but I say most of us. For some people, it's going to be awful. Anyways, moving on. So, for this thought experiment, you've got 500 years of basic, you're going to be pretty healthy. So then how do you live? Because I get this question a lot. A lot of people message me either on Patreon, Substack, or in the comments. You guys are like, well, do I go to school? What do I do? And I'm like, I try not to give really specific advice because one, I could be wrong, right? Like that's always a true thing. But at the same time,
I love people that think that way. There was a Buddhist philosopher, I forgot who it was, but I just saw a quote from them one time, and it was like, I would never die for my beliefs because I might be wrong. And that's completely antithetical to sort of an American mentality. When I heard that, I was a teenager, and I was like, what a fucking idiot. What a shut up. What kind of moron would say that? But that's actually a very I still wouldn't say that necessarily. Well, I probably wouldn't die for a belief. This is a good question to ask yourself. Life? Would you choose life over pride or pride over life? And I know that it is Pride Month, so don't let that color your vision. But that's a question that's in Shin Megami Tensei. I've never played that game, but I saw a little clip. I saw a photograph actually of that question being asked to the protagonist, and I thought that was such a funny question. And the person that responded, life. And I think that I would, obviously would pick life over pride. I think, but because pride is rooted in the ego. It's not anything real. It's a complete illusion. So why would you die for it? And so maybe that's where the Buddhist was getting at, what he was getting at when he said, I would never die for my beliefs. Maybe not because that there isn't a standpoint worth arguing for, being viciously advocated for even, or even going to war over. Hopefully not, but who's to say? What doth life? No, but life is superior to pride, because the pride is a manifestation of the ego. The life, there is no ego without the life. The life is the foundation of you being able to even imagine an illusion to capture your ego within. And so you should so if the utilitarian approach is obviously, I mean, maybe there is a limit. Maybe if I think that there's a dialectic where you could take it to the extreme where it's worth sacrificing your own life for an ideal. That's where I'm going to say, yeah, there are things worth dying for, certainly, but not pride alone.
maybe it makes sense to just tell you what I'm doing and why I'm doing things the way that I am. So first and foremost, on the money front, live below your means.
This guy just threw something into the river.
Next Door many years ago. Gosh, probably 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah, this is the...
And one of the chief lessons of Millionaire Next Door is live below your means.
That's the classic. What is that? Who says that? Warren. But that's just a classic Warren Buffett.
Always make more money.
That's just a classic Warren Buffett move.
But it's way easier to go without. And so I fortunately watched
classic Warren Buffett advice. I unfortunately watched Fight Club as a
Fight Club
teenager.
was like,
I unfortunately watched Fight Club as a 22-year-old.
The Gen X, the final gasp of the Gen X rebellion against consumerism. And so now we have
The
like
final gasp?
anti-consumption.
Yeah,
and so on and so forth.
that's funny. Fight Club only leads to Reddit pages. What a bleak. This guy is so funny because he doesn't understand that he could just the things that he's saying I could rephrase into very funny. That all Fight Club led to was r/anti-work. That's funny.
But if you really watch Fight Club, if you rewatch it through the lens of anti-consumption, what is it that Brad Pitt says? He says something like, advertisers sell you shit that you don't need so that you can impress people that you don't like. That really resonated with me. So I was like, yeah, to heck with that. Like, who needs to buy stuff?
The best comedians don't realize what they're saying could be rearranged into a bit or a comedy. Yeah, a comedy bit.
Just for the sake of buying stuff. And so I checked out of that rat race before I was even in the workforce. So live below your means. I have my living expenses have rarely exceeded $40,000 a year, and even I think last year, my wife and I added it up. Even together, our living expenses totaled
I was about to
around
say.
$48,000 a year.
Yeah,
And,
you don't
like,
need more
this
than
is what I do for fun.
50,000
This
for
is
even
free.
2 people.
Right? Like state parks, national parks. You know, there's lots and lots of free stuff. that you
Unless
can
you're
do.
that's like people who spend into the 80,000 range are going on vacation. They're they're buying luxury goods. It's really think about all that money. I mean, it doesn't matter in either way, but I think investment. It's not about the Warren Buffett is a pervert, and not because he went to Epstein Island or anything. Maybe he did, but I really don't know. He's a pervert because he sublates his desires into some numeric. He likes seeing number get bigger, bank account increase. That's his pleasure. He's taking pleasure in some kind of intangible divorce of reality into just a metric. He's turning over his desires into a metric's growth instead of anything real. And so that's why I'll say that he's a pervert. But Warren Buffett, it's you shouldn't take me saying that as, oh, don't invest in anything. There's a lot of things to invest in. There's a lot, and if you invest correctly in your own life, you should have an overflow where, yeah, you have some gambling money to put in the stock market. Don't take it to a casino unless no more than $300 should you take to a casino. Even that's pushing it. I'd say, you don't even need to do 300. But if you're gambling at $5, okay, no more than $500 at the casino. Okay, no more than $1,000. Just kidding. So I'd say cut it off at 300, and do the small time gambling and just have fun pushing buttons and playing a game. But really, you should take that $300 and put it in Bitcoin. Just kidding. Invest in whatever thing you want. $300 a month, $400 a month. That can be some gambling money, and that will eventually grow if you do it consistently. You'll at least get what you put in back over time and break even. If you do if you make terrible investments, you should even break even over time. But the real investment needs to be a intention. It needs to have intention. So that can be starting a business. That can be saving up money and buying a tool or it's like. That's the real nature of investment. Or it could be somebody has some idea and you really believe in that idea and you can be part of. I don't know. It's or even getting involved in a community. Buy your friends, go to a community and just support their patronize their wares or art or whatever. There's plenty of ways to think about investments that aren't necessarily I'm an old guy, and I think Apple is the coolest thing ever. I know how to use it as a 80-year-old, so it must be good. I'm going to put all my money in Apple stocks. That's essentially Warren Buffett. His brain is just like, yeah, I don't understand computers that well. Apple makes it easy. This if a child can use it, the internet's a big thing. That's the guy who hasn't seen the internet, who has seen the internet develop his entire life and didn't really invest his time into learning a lot about computers, and then he sees the Mac come out. It's just easy for him. It's not Windows was I'm sure that I don't know, but that's his mentality. If you look at Warren Buffett's portfolio, it is mainly Apple stock.
You do not need a lot of money to live a healthy, fulfilling, and meaningful life, as long as you check out of the Edward Bernays consumerist lifestyle, which, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about,
Edward
basically
Bernays.
consumerism as a public narrative was created by Edward Bernays back in the 50s?
That's interesting.
Anyways, he was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. And, oh, by the way, Edward Bernays hated people. He's actually the one who started that mantra that people are just sheep and that you can lead sheep to the slaughter. because he had nothing but contempt for people once he realized how to manipulate people. And so he's the godfather of
Propaganda.
modern advertising, modern propaganda, and all that fun stuff. So you check out of the consumerist lifestyle, live below your means. That's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. It is how I am able to afford to do everything else that I do. That's point number one. And then point number two is, like, prioritize health. This is why I started that Body First Living movement. I don't know if it's a movement, but it's a philosophy that I live by, which is basically I'm just trying to optimize for my heart rate variability. Heart rate variability, if you're not familiar with, is one of the easiest ways to measure your physical stress. So again, not medical advice, this is just what I do. But heart rate variability is a great proxy for physical, mental, emotional stress. So the higher your heart rate variability, the better. And so if my heart rate variability, just for instance, drops below 50, I know that I'm in bad shape and I need to rest. If it's above, then I'm out here. I'm doing everything that I need to do to take care of myself. Why? Because, again, just stay alive. And so you might say, okay, well, Dave, those are like great short-term heuristics, but what about larger decisions? Like, what about larger strategic ideas for life? And it's like, well, if you honestly believe that you might have the next 500 years to do whatever, you know, like one of the examples that I draw from is the Asari from Mass Effect, who live 1,000 years. And it's like, you know, imagine if you're 100 years
That's
old
kinda rad.
and your life is just getting started.
I'd rather just be a blue alien.
Like Liara from Mass Effect 1. Like, that's kind of where we're gonna be. Like, I expect that at the dawn of the 22nd century, most of us who, like you are in the audience and me, we're still gonna be having this conversation 70, 80 years from now. And we're gonna realize that in the grand scheme of things, we're still in the first part of our life. And I know, like, I've got some gray in my beard. I looked through Google Photos, and before the pandemic, I didn't have any gray in my beard, so thanks for that, pandemic. Anyways, so prioritize health, live below your means. I mean, honestly, those are the two primary things. But then on a longer time scale, I've studied all kinds of frameworks, from the Japanese concept of Ikigai to Roger Walsh's TLC, so therapeutic lifestyle changes.
Oh boy.
Self-determination theory. I mean, there's all kinds of frameworks out there. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the Status Game by Will Storr. There is all kinds of stuff that we can spend the next 500 years doing, whether or not you need to make money. I'm sure that money's going to stick around, as will capitalism. It's going to be different. I do agree with the people who say that it's going to be different. No, I'm not involved.
Well, surely this guy's heard of Yanis Varoufakis, who has proclaimed that capitalism has been defeated by techno-feudalism. The techno-feudalist singularity has overcome even the capitalist infrastructure. But of course, that's, you know, it's still founded on what we understand as a capitalist market. What is familiar to us. We wouldn't be able to even tell the difference. We just, I mean, we can tell that something's different, but we can't really pinpoint it. It's just that all of a sudden there are these corporations that are miniature governments that regulate all of our the means of exchange now, because it's all funneled through the internet. We have to bow to the feudal space of these technological overlords, the techno-capitalist overlords. Amazon, you know, if you want to sell anything in the States, you got to do it through Amazon, probably. Or what are you gonna do? Start an Etsy shop? Etsy stock is down, brother. I mean, you can run your small business, this is what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start doing. Have you seen that there are Etsy witches, and you can pay them to hex your enemies? I want to try to get into that market. I don't know how to do that. Maybe we could run it through some other platform too. Maybe, you know, a multifaceted. Maybe that's part of the Patreon bundle. Is that the $30 tier gets one free hex a month in their Patreon subscription. I don't know. These are the ideas that we got to be thinking about.
Love with these systems, as some of you out there in the audience say, they just happen to be the status quo, and it's really difficult to dislodge the status quo. And the best way to dislodge the status quo is through changing everything with technology. Technology has an inexorable habit of completely disrupting socioeconomic and political systems. Anyways, getting off topic. This is about how to live. So this is where I came up with the idea of what I call radical alignment. And I actually renamed one of my other YouTube channels to Radical Alignment. So radical alignment is basically living in lockstep, living in your own truth and with integrity as to how your brain and body and spirit want to live. And so for me, the reason that I'm out here is because I am happiest and healthiest when I am out in nature every day.
That's real.
So unless it's like actively
Every
raining,
day.
and oh, by the way, I tried to come out here a few
That
days
should,
ago when it was
that's making me
raining,
want to walk through the
and I about
woods.
fell into the river a few times because the trail was so muddy. But I'm best out in nature. And I know some of you don't like nature, but nature is good for you. Not going to tell you what to do, but just the evidence is there. Nature is good for you. So for my physical needs, for my spiritual needs, for my psychological needs, I need to be out here in nature. So that's what I'm doing. And rather than prioritizing economic productivity or social pressure, I am prioritizing my animal human needs. And so this is why I call it radical alignment. So there's basically three antagonistic pressures that we all have to contend with. One, economic pressure, which of course that's why I referred to Fight Club and consumerism, because right now the prevailing economic doctrine is that we have a consumption-based economy, that consumer demand is what drives everything, and so therefore if you're going to be a good citizen, you need to spend all of your money. But at the same time, they also tell you that you need to save for retirement and save in case you get cancer. So it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Spend or save? Because if we spend everything, it's our fault for being poor. But if we save, then it's our fault for stalling the economy. You just can't win in a consumerist mindset. So get rid of that. Who cares? Watch Fight Club or whatever. You know, go join our
Watch Fight Club. Advice, watch Fight Club.
Like, deal with less. Be happy with less. And I'm not saying you will own nothing and be happy. I'm talking more about the Buddhist approach of like, just go without. So be happy with less, engage with stuff that's free and more meaningful. And then there's social pressures. So like keeping up with the Joneses, as Brad Pitt said in Fight Club, don't buy stuff to impress people you don't like. You don't like them anyways. Find better people to hang out with who are radically aligned with your values, with what you find meaningful, with what you find fun.
This
so
is just
yeah,
good
those
life.
are- those are the
He's just
three
dropping
pressures,
some
which
life
is
advice at this point.
yourself, like what you need
Act
as
as
an
if you lived to
individual.
500.
There's the collective or society.
But this is
what
this
society
is
tells you,
pretty real.
And then there's
You
the
know,
economic incentive to earn
you
money and
could
take care
you
of
could
yourself.
grind 60
And
hours a
radical
week,
alignment just says,
believing that
we're
time
gonna
is
move the
short
self
and
up
that you're
to
not
the
going to
top
live
of that
forever.
series of priorities.
You know, you could grind 60, 70 hours a week, believing that you're not going to live forever, or you could act as if you are, and or even just respect yourself as if you were, even if you're not, and get the most out of life, because that's sort of the thing is it is an optimization. You know, working that much isn't productive. Working, because if we got rid of all wage labor, we would constantly be working. This is not giving me any. This is not wage labor that I'm participating in right now. It's arguably even productive, but it's a decision that I've organized. Is it work? Is it not? What is it? You know, and you know, preparing food. You know, hopefully, I want to get in a situation where I'm growing. You know, I talk about food independence and what have I done myself to participate in that. Not a whole lot, although I have the means to maybe get something interesting going in the near future, but that requires a lot of organization. I don't have a lot of believers who are willing to, maybe not even believers, but I don't have any mentorship in that department. You know, I've lived my entire life in a major urban area, so I don't have really the agriculturalist community around me. So I really would have to put it all into action, but that would be worth doing. And if you had a rural community that you lived in, a lot of people might not be directly participating in wage labor. They're just, their life is they're less of it is working and more of it is they participate in a lifestyle. And that's what if you watch some of the videos talking about developing agriculture, one of the first things you'll hear them say is it's not a job as much of it as it's a lifestyle. and that was one of the things that really struck me. It was that it's you changing the way that you think about the world. And when you see people moving out to the countryside, that's how they kind of function. It's like, I mean, a lot of the people did have, they're late in life and they're retiring, but some young people too have found their exit strategy into a rural community, and they still have some sort of like tech job that lets them work remotely maybe, and that's their way of sustaining themselves. But really, the way to sustain yourself can be very independent of a lot of the matrices that we think are so powerful. And I think that that's a really good sentiment that this guy is pushing. I got David Shapiro. No relation to Ben Shapiro. He answered that question. He's people were asking him, "Are you related to Ben Shapiro?" And he says firmly,
depending on how you
no.
want to live, because you do still need to make.
That would be funny though. Oops.
Well,
we kind of get the point of this video
radical
anyway.
Alignment, which is prioritize the self and all of your personal truth, whether it's your neurological needs, psychological needs, physical needs, put the self over society and economic pressures. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's how I live.
Yeah.
And it's a process. It takes a lot of patience. And also making some of these changes are big and scary. Moving cities.
I love this guy's been pretty transparent about being being somewhere on the autistic spectrum, and I think that that's just more affirmation that way of thinking is just superior, because he's blunt and he just says things poignantly and like bluntly, and not in a terribly blunt way. At least, I mean, it's outside of social dogma is what you see a lot of. And that's how, whether you have, I have my doubts about whether that condition is a real, it at least should not be called a mental illness or a deficiency of any kind. Even if it is, it's a deficiency insofar as it's asocialized. It breaks the social understanding of what is proper and organic. Although we've already, as a Western culture has already deconstructed itself, so there really is no social means to do so. The university has been bastardized, and that was like the last pillar of the aristocracy is university education. Now it's completely wrapped around the monetary social status. Like anybody can have some social symbols, social status symbol, right? A car, a watch, whatever. This is what that. And so those are the new trappings. But aristocracy is dead. So where does social status is completely made an ass out of. You want this amalgamation of brass, silver, So you see, like, this is what people say, where they say rich people like Warren Buffett. I mean, obviously he was living in a time where the getting was fucking good. We don't have that same opportunity as young people, but the mentality of upper class person is still the same. Upper class person, a person that was born in a situation where they didn't need to desire more, or where their parents weren't struggling to put food on the table, a privileged person. They're kind of they're given an understanding that wealth doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean, as long as you have your health and being human, that's all that really matters. While somebody who maybe didn't have everything growing up has something to prove, and so when they get into the workforce, obviously you're going to be making money, and jobs do pay people more and more. Even though they not nearly enough to match inflation, and not nearly enough to match productivity. If we're talking about productivity, people need to be need to be being paid probably upwards of $25 an hour at this point. But that's a different conversation. The thing is, learning to not have to prove anything through status, because what is status? Status was derived from an old European aristocracy, and so all of these luxury things, it's balking at the aristocracy that no longer exists. So what, you're going to enslave yourself to ghosts, psychological ghosts? That's what you're doing by buying a fucking Lamborghini. You're enslaving yourself to European ghosts. Very funny. Very silly. But I mean, I was born in a very privileged situation where I don't have to want that stuff. And people can laugh at me. They can be like, "You don't have a Lamborghini? You're not a millionaire at 24? The number in your bank account," that's what matters more, honestly. The number in your bank account, your high score. Life is a game, and the high score is your bank account. It really matters. It's so immaterial. The minds of humans, it literally doesn't matter. I could lie. You could be lying. You're gonna show me your bank account? I have $1 million. Prove it. Spend $1 million right now. Like, it's crazy. It's so idiotic. It's like not even. I don't even think young people think that way. I think even the poorest of young people are given at least nice haircuts and cheap food filled with preservatives. They're at least not going hungry, even if it is a chemical warfare. At least they're not going hungry, I guess. But that's really the only reason I would want more money, is to buy better groceries, to be real. And I don't even need to worry about that. Like, I feel like I kind of spoil myself as far as food goes, even if I am eating mainly beans and rice, although a little bit more flavorful. You know, I get a chana masala. It's got you get the spices, you get the stews. You know, it's not just beans and rice. It's a lifestyle. But let's finish out this video.
Jobs, changing relationships, changing habits. All of these things take a lot.
Yes.
Fight this, by the way. I still fight workaholism. I still fight that busy-holic need to make more money, even though I've always lived below my means.
Yeah,
Let me know what you think.
that is the culture. Yeah, if you're not, what you do is the big thing. Can you show that you're needed? That's the thing. It's like everybody that I meet there's a necessity to feel like they're needed through their work. It's like it's daddy issues, I think, and I'm glad that my paternal problems did not manifest in such a way. My paternal problems manifested in other ways of attention-seeking behavior, but never that I had to prove my worth, like in a material sense, more so in a spiritual sense. And that's why I am the animal that you see before you today. But yeah, the desire to materially prove yourself to your father and making you work 60 hours a week is really an insane thing if you think about it. Why are you doing that? Why would somebody do that? What can you not say to your father? Maybe it's not about what you can say. Maybe it's that you need to fight your father. I'm glad that I don't have to do that. That my father I've always been a daddy's girl of sorts. I've just been spoiled by my parents. They're beautiful people. Despite all of their glaring flaws, beautiful people. And I'll have to speak to them more. My father just turned 75 though, so I am the child of midlife parents, the spoiled only child of midlife parents. That is sort of a romantic thing if you think about it. It's kind of it's an old trope that situation is, literary trope. But man,
In the comments. Again,
comments,
not
yes,
everybody-
watch this guy's video if you feel like it, like and subscribe to me, and then see if you want Ben Shapiro's evil cousin, David Shapiro. Just kidding. Ben Shapiro is the evil cousin, and David Shapiro is the light side. But we got to remember to get something done. I've been going for almost an hour and 30 minutes. I meant to keep this under an hour even. It doesn't really matter. We do it live. It lasts as long as it lasts. But I'm happy to have done this. I've freed up my schedule a little bit to take these Monday mornings to reflect, center myself, make this video. It's kind of I tried to do something called Meta Mondays. I don't know if I'm going to call this that. I think I'm just going to call it Monday Morning Coffee. And just sip my coffee, enjoy the morning. It's not that serious. It's never that serious. Even though we watch some serious news, thought about some serious ideas, it's never that serious. Never that serious, but I think I'm going to have to get to my exercise, my reading, my journaling. I hope you guys can do the same or do whatever it is that is motivating you to get out of bed in the morning. So enjoy what's left of your coffee if you have any left over, and remember to center yourself, and remember to get go out in nature, get some exercise like David here, and reading and journaling has helped me recently in my life, and I was super on top of it a little over a week ago, and this last week has been kind of a haze of I didn't know if I was getting sick or what, but I was just kind of putting myself back together. But, hoping to get back on that train, keep up with astrology. If astrology isn't real, why is it so real? That's what I always say. Anyway, much love. Have a wonderful week. Peace.